Hi, my name is Emily. I'm a faithful follower of Christ, and this is a CarniVLOG. My carnivore experience is going so well. I love eating this way. I ordered myself a 2-gallon, I will show you all, a 2 or 2.5 gallon water jug. I'm going to put it in my refrigerator. Glenn, I hope you're watching this. If not, I'm going to text you. I need to know how much keto chow drops you think I should put in there. 1 or 2 teaspoons? I don't even know. Because I'm going to have a big jug of cold water with a little spout on it in my refrigerator at all times that is electrolyte water. Maybe I'll get used to drinking it. I don't even know. Maybe if I drink it, here's my plan. If I drink it regularly, then I won't have to like take shots. That's what I've been doing. I've been getting muscle cramps at night and then like the next day taking a shot of like, I've been just trying to find ways to get the keto chow down. I was really onto something when I was making Carnivore, when I was taking salt, potassium, or some electrolyte drops, putting it in ice cold water, and adding a bunch of lemon and lime. But then I started noticing I have, don't look, pretty severe gum recession. Not from this diet. It's been ongoing forever. But when I started reading about it, apparently I want to avoid acid, lemon. So anyways, God kind of cracks me up. Years ago, he took away alcohol, Diet Dr. Pepper, sodas, caffeine. I ended up with adrenal fatigue. I can't handle caffeine anymore. Sugar, flour. Every once in a while, he takes away dairy. And when I say take away, I mean he says, can I have it? And I hand it over. So he's not taking it, I'm giving it. But it just kind of cracks me up that I can't even have lemon juice. Or I may not have gums. I suppose I could. It's a choice. It's a trade-off. Would I rather have lemon juice or gum tissue? And I choose gum tissue. Would I rather have, well, we won't go into it, but again, it's a choice. And I choose loose skin. It's a choice. I have a friend that lost a bunch of weight and gained it back because she didn't want to have loose skin. I'd rather have loose skin. Enough about my skin. So, it's going so good, and I just went to church, and there was this guy he's in the choir, and he's got his guitar, and when I used to go to Celebrate Recovery, he was so sweet, and I would deliver my testimony, or I would offer some sermon or speak, and I don't even know what. I was teaching class. I don't even know. Y'all remember that? Believers, remember that? BLEVERS. That was after Celebrate Recovery, but I would go to Celebrate Recovery at the beginning of this journey because I didn't know that I could make it 7 days without sugar or flour. So I would just go so that I didn't know if I could make it my whole life. So I would just go so that I only had to make it from Tuesday to Tuesday. And this guy was so nice, so supportive. He really just engaged with me in conversation after I would deliver different sermons or speeches or topics. And I mean, there are people hooked on, I have close friends and family hooked on cocaine and meth, and we all think that's so serious, and it is. But so is what sugar and flour does to us, especially because it presents itself as a cute little cupcake, and it's killing people. It's at least changing trajectories, and like I say, we can die long before we leave this world. So it can kill our potential, it can kill our aspirations, our motivation, it can kill us in a variety of ways. But this man used to come up to me, and he said, I don't know if I can think of it now, but I just thought of it. He said he loved in one of my talks, probably when I delivered my testimony, he said he loved it really stood out to him that while we are in our house recovering, our addiction is out in the front, out in our driveway doing push-ups. So what that means is don't let your guard down. If you have neural pathways laid, well, you might say, I think I'm better. I think I can dip my toe back into the thing I'm addicted to. That doesn't usually go well for people. And I can't imagine anybody, when we're talking about, we know we go round and round and round with sugar. A friend recently said it was the one stick of sugar-free gum for her. Another one recently left a comment and said, I know what it was. It was the stuff she was putting in her coffee, the sugar-free. These are gateways. These are dipping our toes in a pool of water that our flesh wants to dive into. But can you imagine somebody on meth or heroin or alcohol saying, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I think I'm so good. And I'm so off of this substance. Excuse me. The irony here, it's really an oxymoron. I think I'm so free. I think I'm so off this substance that I can have a little. Now, doesn't that sound like an addict? I think I'm so good. I think I'm in such good shape. I think I'm so free from this very thing it just had me just like a vice, a grip, one of those animal traps with the claws. It's had me and I'm free from it. And there's so much distance between me and it. I'm so good that I think I can return to it just a little bit. No, those are mutually exclusive. If you're that good, if you're that free, you won't want to turn to it. You will want to take off running in the other direction. It is a bad relationship that did not serve you. Don't turn back to it. God told me years ago, don't turn to the source of your pain for comfort. He taught me that in this situation with human beings, but the same goes for substances. That has been the source of our pain for years and years and years. And we want to take off running. Not just away from it, but towards health and healing. I tell people, be sure you're running towards something, not just away, because you might run away from things and into stuff that's even worse. So anyways, we can relate, can't we? When we think, you know what, I'm good, I'm going to dip my toe. That is Galatians 4:9. Now that you know God or yet are known by God, why then do you turn back to these weak and miserable forces? Do you wish to be enslaved by them all over again? This is what I told Greg. I elbowed him when I saw that man up in the choir. I said, I love that I don't go to Celebrate Recovery anymore. I haven't been there in a long time. I might pop in every once in a while. I'm still very close with a lot of people that I met there. I ran into a lady the other day at a Mexican restaurant, and she had gone there, and I sat with her at her booth while Greg was getting all the kids situated, and she just wept telling me about her son, and I took her hands and we prayed together, and she gave me some good news the next few days about how her son is doing. And I told her, we have to, a lot of times, and especially our children, it's so hard as moms, they must go through hard times. It's part of their plan. It's how they solidify. It's how they develop grit in the midst of grace. So as she wanted to talk about her son, really what I talked about was her. And I wanted her focus to be trusting the Lord, even with her baby, because he is his baby. Years ago, when my mom knew how much pain I had been in, she said, oh, Emily, I just wish I could take your pain. And I said, oh, don't take my pain. Don't take my pain. The pain is what helps me realize how desperately I need the Lord. And it's what causes me to turn to him. And it's been in the midst, these valleys of these shadows of death, that it's just really been God and Greg and I. Or just God and I, or just God and my mom and Greg and I. There's just a handful of people when you're in the midst of that type of acute pain. And to come out of that, not around it, but through it, is so exciting and wonderful. And I would not know the light like I know the light without the darkness. I wouldn't appreciate the good without the bad like I do. I've said before, it is a blessing when things get bad enough. That's a blessing for them to get so bad. We've got to do something about them. I do not want to live in what I call the middle ground of misery, where things are just, they're bad, but they're not bad enough to make you do something about it. They're bad, but it's chronic instead of acute. I much prefer acute pain. So I elbowed Greg, and I saw this guy with the guitar, and I said, I just love that when I used to go to Celebrate Recovery a couple years ago, and I would talk about how addicted I was to sugar and flour, I told Greg, I said, I just love that I was right. Boy, am I addicted. And I feel so good now being off of it, and people see these drastic changes in my physical body, and I'm so grateful to be able to offer to them some type of solution, whether it's their perfect solution or not, which, by the way, there's no such thing. We're all continually learning and making our way through. What serves me right now will not be precisely what serves me when I'm 98, meaning I might, I don't know, that's not true. I might need my beef blended. I might have to drink my ribeyes, but I'll probably still be benefiting from beef at 98. I'll probably still be alive at 98 because this is such a fantastic way of eating. Anyways, I can share this with people. I used to tell Greg when I was gaining 100 pounds, I said, Greg, I always had this sense that I was supposed to be gaining it. I always had a sense. I said, Greg, I really believe this is part of my plan. I just have this like peace about it. I never like had a ton of anxiety. I mean, it was very difficult, literally gaining 100 pounds pretty quickly, and still teaching school and having little kids and having to go in and out of 50 different wardrobes. And I used to tell people I'm so grateful for restaurants and I'm so grateful for plus size clothing. And they were there for me when I needed them. But anyways, the moment we don't need something, that's when a crutch becomes a hindrance. Hebrews 12:1-2, let us throw off everything that hinders us. And while God might have allowed us to use something as a crutch to get us through a certain period, the nature of a crutch is that the moment you don't need it anymore, it's doing nothing but holding you back. You've got to find the strength and the courage, and it's in Jesus, to throw the crutch and start to use and build strength and momentum with your new legs. But I used to tell Greg, I said, I have a sense I'm supposed to be gaining this weight. And I used to tell him, and I said, maybe it's so that I can lose it and show other people how to lose it. Because haven't we all been struggling here in America, especially with gaining weight and trying to figure out how to lose it? So I was so naive to think it was all about weight. I think that what's much more important is that if I could, yes, lead people into more physical fitness or weight loss. And by the way, I am with you. I say often on my channel, you're not seeing what I've done, you're seeing what I'm doing, and we're doing it together. But what matters so much more than that, I'm realizing, is that everything God allows us to do or be part of, whether you work at Lowe's or you're a trash collector or any of the work we do. When I used to paint murals, my business was called Paint and Worship, just like praise and worship, because anything we do and worship is for the Lord, Colossians 3:23. But I was so naive to think it was going to be all about weight, and really everything, every encounter we have is an opportunity to redirect the world back to Christ. I was telling someone recently, this is my little hole in the wall channel. When my subscribers go down, I'm kind of relieved. Not really. I mean, I don't know. I never tell people to subscribe because there's 13 million YouTube channels out there. I have no delusion or desire to be the one person that God would use to solve everyone's problems. I have no delusion or desire that I would save the world. Jesus already did. But we all have a little sphere of influence. And if we will appreciate it and acknowledge it, I believe God would allow it to grow. So I figure when my numbers go up and my numbers go down on this channel, this is just like people come and go. It's just everything has a season. And you might pop in on this channel and just spend a month with me and hear something tiny that you needed to hear that's maybe totally unrelated to food or eating. I love hearing about how people landed here. Recently, a friend of mine told me she found this channel because she was searching for a different Emily, thought I was her. Shout out to Audrey. Hi, Audrey. And then she listened to a few of my videos and was like, this can't possibly be the Emily that I thought I was listening to. And then she stuck around, so she's still with us. She's hanging out over here with us. But this is a little hole in the wall channel, and it's my great honor to be of any inspiration or help, and I share what I discover. But like I say in my little description of my channel, life is a process. Let's process it together. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10. Two are better than one, because if one falls up, the other can help them. I say that all the time, falls up. If one falls down, the other can help them up, and they have a better return for their labor. We're working hard. Let's work smarter, not harder, together. Am I right? So anyways, I just saw this guy up there in the choir, and I told Greg, I said, I love that I was right, that I'm addicted. And I love that I sit here now, not back on sugar and flour, but off longer than I've ever been. I did bright line eating for a couple years, and that taught me that sugar and flour are legitimately drugs. They are dose dependent. I don't remember the whole, it's like 4 or 5. Dose dependent, had something to do with kidney function. I don't know. I can't even think of it now. I used to quote it all the time. They're drugs, literally. They don't make us full, they make us high. And I thought I got off of them until I realized I was binging on everything that's still, I switched. My addiction is sophisticated, just like these kids. I got to watch out, because if I tell them you can't have something, they will find, don't be on your PlayStation, so they're on the TV. Don't be on the TV, so they're on their iPad. Don't be on the iPad, so they get my phone. They find a way, right? My addiction finds a way to get what it wants. And it was getting what it wanted through the enormously sweet fruits and carbohydrates that have been now modified. They are not quite, apples are sweeter than they used to be when we'd pull them off our great grandparents' trees. But anyways, CarniVLOG, it's going really good. Greg and I have made it through about 120 days. I just made a video on how to know when you're ready to fast. We went 120 days of just getting off sugar and flour, and we binged our brains out on Easter, April 17th, and then haven't touched sugar and flour again since, except for the occasional mild sauce. No more of that. Again, my brain, my sugar addiction. I was so glad during the priming phase to get heartburn so I could eat Tums like candy. I was like, recommended doses 2. I don't think 3 will kill me. Sugar, 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 sugar. So interesting how relentless our addictions are. But we made it through. We're doing 90 days right now through the priming, and I was enjoying me some dairy, and I feel so good to get off of it again. We did a week or so of 3 meals a day. We're heading into a couple weeks of 2 meals a day. Then we will gradually get to 1 meal a day, and then alternate day. Greg was cracking up the other day. He was like, you think people lose weight on this? Because you're eventually taking a big break from eating, but you're giving your body an opportunity to scavenge, to pick through and eat up some stored fat and experience autophagy. Anyways, that was just lovely. I had a lovely moment this morning at church, just sitting there grateful to be sober, and grateful that all that time I spent there at Celebrate Recovery with all those people talking about this addiction, that it wasn't hokey, it wasn't silly, it wasn't exaggerative. It is very, very, very real. Sugar addiction is very real. And seeing that man with his guitar just reminded me of that whole period of life. And I sat there just so grateful and glad to still be on that trajectory and have come this far to the point of carnivore, just cutting it out completely. So I went from Snickers to bananas, but I went bananas, eating bananas and avocados and Ezekiel bread and. One more thing. My new favorite carnivore. His name is Joey. I'm going to link 2 videos below. This kid is so cool. He is just, Joey, you are so wise beyond your years. And I told Greg the other day, I said, I would listen to this kid if he were talking about like mechanics or painting or cooking or computer science. He's a little, Joey, you're a bit of a prodigy, but he's like a carnivore prodigy. Listen to this young man. He's not a child. He's 19 now, maybe 18. He was 18 or 19 making these videos, talking about how he spent his life trying to figure out what the most optimal human diet is. And I was cracking up telling Greg how at one point he says in one of his videos, he was like, I was wondering when all these different experts were telling us, well, you got to eat this food for this and that food for that. And this is a superfood and that's an extra superfood. And blueberries and broccoli and squash and this and that and this and that. He said, no. And he said, no, that's dumb. I just love it. I love the confidence. No, that's dumb. Because he's right. That's dumb. Surely, if every other animal on the planet can have a pretty simple diet, so can we. We complicate matters. Leave it to us humans. Leave it to us humans to screw everything up. Adam and Eve started with them. Am I right? Leave it to us humans. Other species aren't blessed with the ability to shoot themselves in the foot like we do. So we have just thoroughly complicated matters by getting greedy, wanting money, and commercially processing so much. And then ingesting things that are, it's debatable whether or not they're edible. I suppose you can chew them and swallow them, but that doesn't make them food. Food is anything that promotes growth and sustains life. There is so much that we chew and swallow that does not do either one of those 2 things. So anyways, please check out Joey below. His channel is called The Carnivore Camaraderie. And the interview he does with this man that's been carnivore for over 40 years, I just love this guy. This guy is so, he's a breath of fresh air. There you go. I just did it. He just makes me like, he reminds me so much of my grandparents. And he's not old, don't get me wrong. I don't mean he's like, he reminds me of like an old person, but he reminds me of that era of like things were simpler and we weren't all striving and chasing what this world can offer. I just love the interview. This guy's got it figured out. He has, you know, you listen to some people and you can just tell they have cracked the code. They have figured out how to be at peace. And we're not going to find peace out there. It's not out there. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. When we accept him we're not all children of God. John chapter 1 verse 12, I believe it is. It's when we choose to become a child of God that we have the privilege of being called a child of God. And when that happens, we receive the Holy Spirit that then dwells within us. This is Daniel's homework from church. And I just went through these, I just went through these with the kids. He's got, he doesn't have to do this, but if he will, they're going to give him an extra piece of sugar next week. Isn't it funny? We use sugar to bribe our kids. We use sugar for so much. Okay, let's see here. Where does God's presence dwell now inside of us? What does it mean to say God dwells in us? It means that he lives in us. His Spirit lives in us. 1 Corinthians 6:19, do you not know that you're a temple of the Holy Spirit? Where could you go that God isn't? Well, if the light of the world, John 8:12, dwells within you, then nowhere. Where could you go that God isn't? There's only one place, hell. And that just means eternal separation from God. Where can we go? If God dwells within us, where can we go that he isn't? Nowhere. So I just had a really fun time talking to Kadaniel. Houston's with his mom this morning. We had Kadaniel and Mary with us at church. And I said, Kadaniel, so think about that. I said, where could you go that God isn't? And he said, in the darkness. And he's pretty scared of the dark. I said, no, think about it, think about it, think about it. I said, it's kind of a trick question. And I said, honey, if he's within you, then there's nowhere you can go that he isn't, because he goes with you everywhere. So when you're in the dark, you're not in the dark. You have the light of the world within you. That's it. That will be it on my CarniVLOG, which is quick update. And my new favorite carnivore. Please check out Joey. His videos are linked below. I'm just like, what? Listening to this 18-year-old kid, okay, adult, whatever, he's technically adult, talking about the way he prepares these foods. What in the world? I'd like to pat his parents on the back. And I left a comment up underneath one of his videos. I said, you, sir, are my new favorite carnivore. And I said, my 18-year-old son can barely make a grilled cheese sandwich. No offense, Thomas, you're awesome. I will say my 18-year-old can do a whole lot of things that a lot of other 18-year-olds probably couldn't. He can farm. He can do all sorts of stuff around here. But listen to Joey talk about cooking. And I'm telling you, there are child prodigies that can play piano, play violin, do amazing math calculations, recall all sorts of history about presidents. This kid can cook meat like no one I've ever heard before. And at 18 he has discovered this. Anyways, I just highly recommend listening to Joey and his interview with this very neat man that is at peace and not chasing after what all this world has to offer. That's it, you guys. I love you dearly. I am going to go pick up my Walmart groceries. But first, I'm going to get out of these super cute, very uncomfortable shoes. I love you dearly. We'll talk again soon.